Welcome everyone to Enlightened Masculinity podcast. This episode is being streamed to the IMC TV YouTube channel. So if you're not on that, this gets posted as an episode on all the podcast platforms. You can check out IMC TV. I think there's a number 7 at the end because there's actually like a lot of IMC TVs. We didn't know when we started it. This picture is crooked. So IMC TV 7, you'll see the logo. You'll see my show there. A bunch of shows there. All the IMC guys. So you can see, or a lot of the IMC guys. What is this? What is this message I'm getting? Dang. I don't know what that message is. It came across the first few sentences. Very interesting. The first few sentences, you get kind of an indication of a message. Sometimes, though, it's surprising. It starts off one way, it ends up another way. That's like that's like in wrestling when you fake this way and go that way, and the guy falls on his face. So, yeah, this gets posted everywhere. You can check out all the IMC, a lot of the IMC philosophy. It's growing. 2 more shows being, put on the channel. And let's see, what else? Obviously, I'm captain of IMC Nation. Yogi Chris PhD is my name. Chris DeVilbus, if you want my government name. And so I'm streaming to you from base 1, Stoic Temple in Campbell, California. We have 5 bases right now, and there's works of more bases. It's growing rapidly. When you're in it, it seems slower. But then when you look back, it's like, dang, in only 2.5 years or 2 years, it went from 1 to 5. And now there's a bunch of people getting trained and they're looking at open 7, 6, 7, and 8. It's like, wow, pretty soon, one day. My vision is 300 bases. Before I leave this earth, 300 bases. That's 1,500 alpha men living together in this kind of fraternity of philosopher, monks, warriors, businessmen, players. It's going to bring a whole new level of cool and sophistication and intelligence to the planet. That's like a whole army. And because, to have guys in bases, for every guy that's in a base, there's 20 that aren't in bases. So that's a much bigger movement. And for every guy that's in the movement, but not in a base, there's probably another 20 to 50 guys that are watching, that are just on the sidelines. And for all of those men, because relationships being such an emphasis, not just romantic relationships, but just your communication with everybody, with your clients and business and family and life, that's a lot of people that are affected. And at some point it reaches like a critical mass, like a nuclear, when it gets enough and then it goes nuclear and then it's like fuels itself. So that's what this is. And that this episode, I was titling it, Survival Has Changed, Romance Hasn't. And I'll probably always go through this circuitous, winding path to get there. But I'll start off with the main point and then I'll go into the next topic, which I'm just so excited to talk about. It's like such a huge spiritual realization because it comes in the form of clarity about something I was already perceiving, and you probably were too. And hopefully I can transfer some of the words that will help you define and clearly see what's happening. But I'll start off with the title being, Survival Has Changed, Romance Hasn't. And it could be worked the other way too. It's really a perspective in how you look at it. But here's what I mean by that title. Survival has changed. Let's say we used to not have we, when I say we, I mean like as a species going back in time. Now, if you go back far enough, you're probably going to see a lot of alien intervention, ET intervention on humans, the hybridization with genetics, putting their own genes into the apes that were here, crossbreeding and breeding. There were lots of different kinds of humans. You go back far enough, the history has been suppressed from us, the actual history. And you could find just countless information online. And yeah, you would think that maybe some of it is fabricated, but it also seems to make a lot of things make sense. Like the pyramids and all the ancient megalithic structures that are above the tree line, that it's like we couldn't even move a 50-ton rock now, let alone back then. And then above the tree line, like how'd they do that? Like they can't even roll it on trees. You can't roll it uphill above the tree. It's just not going to work with super straight laser cuts through. Okay, so there's definitely ETs, right? But if you go back, let's say the last 10 or 12,000 years, although there's probably been lots of ET intervention or whatever, it seems to be a relatively continuum or a continuous stream of human evolution and innovation since, being cavemen, Bronze Era, farming and all that stuff. And as you go back through time, even though it goes more primitive in a lot of ways, let's say the last 10, 12,000 years, less technological advancement that makes life comfortable and easy to survive. then everybody had a lot of common roles. There were a lot of similar roles. There might have been some specialization at some point, like he's a warrior, he's a farmer, let's say. He's the chieftain, he's the, somebody else in the tribe. But you go back far enough and it's a lot of foragers, it's a lot of hunters and gatherers. And the division of roles is going to be like man and woman and children, but not like he's a blacksmith, he's a carpenter, he's an accountant, he's a CEO of a company, he's a janitor. Like that's some hella specialization for survival. Guys are doing that not because they love being a janitor or they love being a school teacher. They might like teaching, but there's 90% of what you're going to do is not the teaching. Like, I liked being a research scientist, but in order to be a research scientist, you have to write proposals and you do have to teach, and then you have to grade and you have to attend all these meetings that don't have to do with you. And it's like, man, I just want to get to my research. And by the time you get to your research, you're so exhausted from all that other bullshit, you don't even like doing the research anymore. And so there's so many means of survival that have become specialized. Back in time, it wasn't so specialized. It was very generic. Now, when we look at the other end of the equation, or the other side of the coin, which is life, because you got to survive. But in order to survive to the next generation, you have to reproduce or replicate. And so you can't have one without the other for very long. And it's this, you could call it yin and yang or opposites. It's the dichotomy of life. It's what makes life go forward. It's polarization, gender. And romance or mating, or however you want to think about it, replicating, the genes replicating, hasn't gone through as so much of a specialization. It's pretty much the same. It's the same as it was. There's monogamy, there's polygamy, there's whoring yourself. That's been around forever. And when upon deeper inspection, that's essentially what the male-female relationship is she is getting something for giving her sexuality, because what he wants from her is her sexuality. There, you will find some examples on a planet of 10 billion people where a man is looking to her for survival, and they don't last, and she's unfulfilled, and he's unfulfilled, and those offspring are really weak, and it's a disaster. That's not what humanity was built from. But it is a strategy. It's a strategy, because although she may be giving him survival, ultimately he is the bodyguard. Like, he's going to throw himself in front of something, or she's going to throw him in front of something that's in between her and danger, versus her being his bodyguard. So it may appear as if she's the survival, like she's a sugar mama, or she gives direction. She's older, wiser, tells him what to do, whatever. But on a genetic level, it's expected that he would sacrifice himself for her, and she wouldn't sacrifice her for him. It would be her son that she would do that for, like her young son, her baby. So even on closer inspection, he represents survival to her. She represents replication to him. He's with her in that dynamic for access to the vagina. That's what he's doing there. She's not with him for access to the penis. Again, you'll find examples, but you'll find a lot of examples of a lot of things that doesn't negate the general principle. And if you try to go in and inspect all the different variables that make it valid, like, for example, gravity works everywhere except in a black hole. But if you go in and upon deeper inspection, it's not that gravity doesn't work there or it works differently. It's just there are more advanced principles. There's a lot of variables that we're not seeing because it's not part of our ecosystem right here. We have to look way far out and make estimations, and we're not there experiencing it. But there is natural law there, just as it's not like gravity just stopped working there. It's just there are other principles at play in God's universe, in this creation of mathematics and cause and effect. It's valid, obviously, because it's happening. There's nothing invalid in nature. And so that's why when you see weird, awkward, backwards relationships, or, I mean, let's say even a mentally challenged person that's like incapable of taking care of themselves, or disabled somehow. They're born unable to take care of themselves. In nature, they would die. In human nature, some of them, many of them live because we take care of. And so that is part of nature. So it's a natural event. It's just not something that we see out there because of the laws set up and the rules, how they're set up in the dog eat dog jungle. And so we're like a black hole, so to speak, in the analogy. I mean, we're not really a black hole, but like there's some more specialized laws that will come into human civilization that'll make things that in nature, in natural order, when energy is in short supply, when everybody's competing, and it is really a survival of the fittest in so many different levels, that things become very efficient, and unapologetically some things get weeded out. Unapologetic. Nature isn't apologizing about it. Versus in human society, because survival has become easier through technology, which is through application of the mind to the physical universe to solve problems, taking the elements here, putting them together, refining them, or observing and understanding flows of nature, weather patterns, this and that, combining those. So we take raw elements of wood or ground mud and or metal or whatever, and we apply it to, okay, river flows and wind flows and rain comes at this time and the soil is like this. And so we work with our intelligence. We use our muscles to work the elements so the elements produce more for us than naturally would be. If we were relying on it to naturally provide for us, we have to forage, gather, hunt, roam around, be nomads. That's how we go with that. But when we can observe and apply our intelligence, and we can yield more for ourselves, ultimately with less effort, although it may take some front-loaded effort, ultimately farming allowed us to have more free time. And so more could be developed. However, what we see in the biological history of humans, whatever I could say, everything I say about that, it's just like, man, I know there was so much ET intervention, but it's what makes sense. So the logic makes sense. And until there's better logic, this is what I go with. It's just like gravity makes sense. I knew a scientist, I studied with him in Italy, who did not believe in gravity. He said gravity was false. And he solved all kinds of physics problems that were not solvable in modern physics. And he solved some genetic problems that were not solvable with genetic models because they were too complex. So the computers couldn't solve it. But through his understanding and how he applied his math, I couldn't get his math. I tried for a month. I think it was a month. Yeah, a month of was it just a month? Man, it seems like it was. Maybe I visited him twice a week. It must have been. Anyway, I got a lot of his philosophy. He would teach math through philosophy. I don't mean to go on a tangent or whatever. So anyway, he was saying that gravity is valid for what we do here on Earth, but it's not the truth. The truth is this interrelationships of bodies, and however he was explaining. So So until a more valid truth comes along, which is going to be through the logic and ultimately through the expression of that logic, which is the quality of life and how well a person is surviving and replicating, which are the measurements here. And yeah, I do measure both. There are some people like monks, let's say Maharishi right there. He didn't replicate at all as far as genetically. He replicated millions in terms of his ideas. Okay, so that's actually replication. I'll say that. I am yin to his teachings. I am feminine to his teachings. I received his teachings. He impregnated my mind with ideas that I incubated and nurtured and raised into full-fledged, developed, lifestyle philosophies. And that's what that's what teaching is. Teaching is yang, student is yin. And I was saying mating hasn't changed that much. So if you look at a book called, I think it was Sperm Wars that did this, and it goes through like 30 or 40 different stories of how men and women get together. And they're obviously there's similarities because the men and women are getting together, but they are different. Everyone, it's like a textbook. Each story actually has two parts. The first part is like a romantic novel that you'll even get aroused. You'll be reading it. You'll be like, oh, fuck, this is kind of turning me on because it's like painting a picture. Not all of them, but like some of them. And then there's part two of that story, which is the science. Why the woman did this, why the man did that. And it's pretty amazing. You go through 30 or 40 stories that you yourself have probably lived multiple of those, 2 or 3 or more. You've had that experience. Just change the names of the characters and add a few other events in there or something. But the gist of it is like, whoa, and you'll look at all of your sexual history, and pretty much all of your sexual history will be told in this book of 30 or 40 stories. And like, if you're like me and you're part of a mastermind with hundreds of men, and you've been studying this for a long time, and you've seen a lot of guys come and go. So I've interacted with more than hundreds, and you'll see that all of their stories fit into this too. It's like, Jesus, is my romance, is my relationship history, is my sexual history really not that unique to me? Like, my story can be as unique as I make it. Obviously, like, it's almost like they say, what is it, 7 stories? It's the same 7 stories that keep getting retold through history. But obviously, there's more than 7 books out there, more than 7 movies. It's retold in a lot of different ways, with a lot of nuances, but it's the same gist. And your mating has been the same gist for thousands of years. It's the same story as it was back then. It's kind of a humbling. Now, we got way creative with it. Art, music, all the different survival strategies. That was a man's striving to survive that created that art. Or if, let's say, a woman created the art, but a man observes the art, appreciates the art, and uses the art to seduce a woman somehow. I don't know, puts it up on his wall, takes her to an art gallery, shows her the art, and then explains it or describes it in some way that shows his intelligence, that she's like, wow, that's his survival value. His intelligence, his taste in art, it suggests his survival value. It's intelligence. That's what art is. Now, it's so beautiful and it's attractive to us and cool. That's what ornamentation is, sexual ornamentation. Like, the female deer is probably attracted to the male antlers. You'd say the male antlers are to fight off other male deer and protect the herd or whatever. So you could fight off a wolf or something with a bunch of antlers. But she will still mate with a male deer, when she hasn't observed him fight or defend something. Just those big antlers suggest that he can. And a man's big intelligence suggests that he can protect in his environment. The mind is our antlers. The mind is our tooth and claw. The mind, our mind, the male mind, is our weapon. Even the weapons that we have were made by the human mind. Even if it's just a stick and we use it as a weapon, our mind is using it as a weapon. Otherwise, it's just a stick. Our mind is our ornamentation. When we tattoo ourselves, when we dress in fancy clothes or bling or any kind of accessorizing or whatever, that's our intelligence that's doing that. And when we're not doing that, let's say we inherit our fashion from our parents, or somebody else gives us jewelry and it's not our preference, we're just wearing it or whatever, then it becomes a reflection of someone else's mind. Also, our mind that we acquiesced to wearing that or whatever. So it just shows our mind and our expression is the male ornamentation. And I was saying, so survival, mating has changed in these stories that we use, how we seduce, but the end result is very, very similar. Now, I could say survival is also similar in that even if we make millions of dollars and we have some sophisticated job and we're traveling the world in a jet airplane, which wasn't available 10,000 years ago, we're still eating and shitting and sleeping. And it's the same story of survival, just told with a lot of different, kind of like, so for me to make my food, I have to drive to the office and sit in a cubicle and do that or whatever. I have to sit on a computer and do that. Like, those are my means of getting food in my belly so I can live. And so the mating, it may be for the means of getting access to the vagina and the womb. I am going to go to a bar or make a dating app thing, or I'll just cross paths with someone and I'll say all of this and that and this and that and go on this date, or we'll meet up this time. And it's like this whole courtship process, ultimately for the same result. Okay. So at this point, hopefully I've conveyed and transferred to you the importance of the mind in mating, especially for the man and for the woman, because the transfer of intelligence or the transfer of your survival value happens in her mind. That's where it's received. I can transfer it, but if she doesn't receive it, then she doesn't get it. And if she doesn't get it, then she's not going to willingly give herself to me, which is obviously, I mean, we're looking at willingly give. So how you seduce her she has to get your survival value. You can have survival value and she doesn't get it and you don't get her. You cannot have survival value, but she thinks you do and you get her. That would be like an easy example would be like the musician that's going to be a rock star and she sees so much potential in him, but he's really just a drug addict and plays decent enough music, but doesn't have what it takes to persist and make it. And so she's gambling. That was a wrong perception. I mean, if you were gambling with your life in your womb, you should probably, be pretty certain about it, But also if she waits too long, then some other woman will come in and swoop that up. And so she's gambling, right? It's a gamble. So it's happening. It's a transfer from mind to mind. Your fashion, your language, your perceptions, your survival value is a transfer to her. And it's counterintuitive how to do that's game. Game is the artistic and creative way of transferring this survival value to her so that she gets it and she comes and gives herself to me, which is her replication value. I'm giving her survival value, but of course, not really. It's not like committing. Like, let's say I tell her something or I give her something about state of mind or understanding psychology or something that gives her certainty in life. So she feels certain. She's around me and she feels certain. That's survival value because certainty would be a survival quality. If you're surviving well, you should have certainty. If you're not surviving well, you'd be in confusion, you'd be in doubt. That's not surviving well. That's why if you're a celebrity and you're making it, but you're in doubt looking over your shoulder, you're not surviving well. That's why if you're on the street or if you're, just having a humble monk life living, but you have certainty and you move with certainty, that's survival. That guy will get girls more than the celebrity. I mean, the celebrity will get it because of the bling, and men and women have been, misguided in thinking that that's survival value. To some degree it is, but you'll be miserable. And if you ruin your life in some way, he could abuse you, physically rape you, he could, impregnate you, and then that ruins your mating potential in the future. So you sold out your future for some money. Well, go back to the beginning where I was like, the relationship is essentially whoring. Marriage is the most expensive whoring. For half of you, I will give you all of me exclusively, supposedly. She still won't. She'll cheat. A lot of married women will cheat. So many. It's ridiculous. So made so obvious to me in recent years were some of old wrestling friends and guys, because I wrestled 15 years ago in college. So old wrestling friends, old academic friends or whatever, wives of my wrestling comrades or whatever would hit me up. It wouldn't look like they're hitting on me, but why are you hitting me up? You just thought of me and you're just going to message me? Dude, read Sperm Wars. That's easy. That's an obvious story. That's why a woman will have a harder time fooling an older man or a wiser man. Anyway, we need to wrap this up. I was saying survival has changed, mating hasn't so much. Mind, it's a mind-to-mind transfer, which is a communication. So in that mind-to-mind transfer, then, and guys, if you're on Instagram, there's a bunch of you watching Instagram, go to the link in my bio and subscribe to the YouTube, because that's the shit. The YouTube is the shit. Dang, what's going on with the YouTube? As I was just pitching it. There we go. All right. It's a mind-to-mind transfer. So it's a communication, whether with words, sounds, your beingness, your presence, your movement, proximity, body language, fashion, everything, your avatar. It's a communication from here to there that she's got to get your survival value. Now, there are a few manifestations of this communication, which is an energy. All things are energy. This is part of my PhD, and you've probably heard it too. I just understand it way better than you. All things are energy. They can all be measured in vibrations, frequency, amplitude, the concepts of energy. Communication is energy. Information is energy, because communication comes in the form of physical energy, like sound compression waves. But the information itself is also energy. It carries an impact. And just like the wind flowing through a corridor, it could just blow through and then go out the other end and do nothing. Or you could set up a wind turbine in there to receive the wind, and it could have a big effect. And if there was no wind, there would also be no effect. But if you have the right receiver, you can create an effect with that flow of information. So communication is a flow of energy. And there are other manifestations of energy like explosions, implosions. So this would be a person that goes very dark and dim and depressed, imploding energy, talking internally. The person that explodes in anger or enthusiasm, excitement, or even insanity, outwards, which is kind of an inwards. But there's explosions and implosions, which is not a direct line, a direction. It's kind of in all directions, or it's inward from all directions. And then the third, so that's like a dispersal. And then there's this third category, which is ridges. So there's the flow, which is the communication. There's the explosion or implosion, which is the dispersal. And then there's ridges. Ridges are when I do a flow. It could even be from an explosion, but let's say just a communicating flow. And I communicate and it hits like a wall. And why it hits a wall is because this other person has a communication that's antagonistic to it and they don't vibe. And so a ridge gets created between people. This is what you've been feeling. These are what I said in the beginning, words that may help you perceive what's happening. When you and somebody start having friction, you've created a ridge of energy between you two because of what you're thinking, which comes from your beliefs and, you know, what's been happening, what you're saying, even who you're being. You could, let's say somebody hates goth people, or they just think it's disgusting, and they see someone walk in with like spikes and the leather jacket, whatever. All of a sudden a ridge goes up. Or somebody hates black people or something. It's like a black, you know what? Or somebody hates white men. There, that's a better racist example. Fuck the black male racist example. White men are the most hated ethnic group in America, the white male. Now make him single white male, make him alpha single white male. That is the most hated group in America. Most feared. And well, in my opinion, unreasonably so, but I'm sure, you know, anyway, that's like another topic that I would get into. Ridges. So when you feel that, here's another word that you may hear it described as static. Like there's some static between me and somebody. That's an energy ridge. And it takes two to fight. It takes two to argue, right? The ridge is also because I am resisting, resistor, another energy term, I am resisting that communication. And so I put up this force field between us. And men and women are kind of, in a way, walking around with ridges. They have a lot of blocks to communication, to receiving it, and to it being received. It goes out in a way that makes it difficult for people to receive it. Let's say like the feminist. The feminist outflows communication that makes it very difficult for any man to receive that. Real man. So she lives through life with terrible or non-existent relationships. She may not even be a self-proclaimed feminist. And of course, feminist comes in so many different shades, whatever. All of them are wrong. Some of them are less wrong. There's some right in there, the rightness, righteous. So, or like the dork, let's say the man that's like a nerd and he's withdrawing. He just, why are no woman likes me, this or that. And it's like, bro, your communication out to the world is creating or hitting these ridges that women don't like that. That happens to the alpha male too. The alpha male is hitting ridges in her because of her impressions of similar qualities in previous men that she's experienced. But there is a way for me as a man to communicate that doesn't hit that ridge. It slightly phase shifts. The energy and frequency of my communication slightly phase shifts, so it's like it goes through, you know, like some light waves. Light waves don't go through that wall. That wall completely blocks light, but infrared might go through it a little bit. X-rays definitely go through it. Those are the same form of energy, just a different frequency. It would be like my voice going higher. It's all sound, but it's different frequency. So light comes in the form of infrared. Light is just what we call the visible infrared. Light is what we call visible X-rays. Light is what we call visible gamma rays. They're the same energy. They're just in the frequency that our eyes can see. But go higher or lower, we no longer see them. And go higher or lower, they may go through that wall. And your communication go higher or lower, and not the voice pitch, the communication, the information, higher or lower, and it may pass through that ridge. The frequency of your being may allow their communication to pass through your ridge. You can change to allow the communication to happen. And once you're in communication, then you can lead, then you can guide. Me being more developed, more flexible mentally, more at ease, less and less ridges. This is what I do transcendental meditation for, what I study for, what my lifestyle is. This is a practice of confronting and reducing and smoothing out these ridges. In one way to explain it, that's one aspect of what I do. It's not like I live to smooth out my ridges, but I kind of do. It's just, I don't focus on ridges. It's just with my, I don't know, you can call it third eye or my energy body, I'm able to perceive ridges now that I've studied them and it's been explained to me and I'm getting it. And okay, now I have a language for it. So I'm seeing them more and I'm becoming more cause over eliminating them or smoothing them out or dissipating them so that the communication can flow better. And this is survival value because my ridges make me unable to hear some information or unable for me to get my message across. And if I can't get my message across, that's not a very good leader. If I can't hear certain information, that's not a very good tribesman. You know, I can't work in a team. And a relationship is a team. You know, my girl that lives so close to me and she's involved in so much of what I do, she's on my team more than any other woman. And as long as we remember that, then ridges are more easier to handle because she's a human being with a psychology and a history, and I'm a human being with psychology and history, and our ridges. And as you get more familiar and comfortable with each other, your ridges become apparent to each other and you start arguing. And then the people from the outside, they don't give you so much gruff because they're not peering so deeply, you're not so familiar with each other. And so it appears as if you get less resistance from outside people, more resistance from inside people. The woman gets more resistance from her man, less resistance from other men. So the flow in her weak ass spineless nature is to go towards less resistance, but then she never faces the ridges, which are her character flaws. He may also have character flaws. He may have even more or less, or you know, he needs to improve himself. She needs to trust in that or find another man. He needs to have those standards that you completely go with me so that you can form yourself to be better fit for me. Or we could keep this casual and you go and do whatever. And then, you know, at some point I'm going to lose interest because my value keeps raising. Your value goes down through time. And I'm eventually going to find a woman that's going to give me what I want, when I want, how I want. 2 women, 3 women, 4 women, if I have the mindset strength to handle that and communication skills. And I'll just lose interest in you. But to be fair, you will have improved every waking minute that you spent with me. Maybe there were some conflicts or whatever, but I guarantee that I handled those conflicts better than other men, other people that you deal with. And you may not see that yet because you'll think I got so aggressive or this or that. I'm just giving examples. But experience will tell me, and my rising status and success will tell you that you just couldn't understand where I was coming from. But I was coming from much higher awareness and skill than what you're familiar with. So it seemed unreasonable to you, but that's because you were lower awareness. You may never raise enough in awareness to see the wisdom and strength, but that's why the world at large will prove my success. Success will be my proof. So all the time she spends with me, she improved. And hence I got a measure in the economics of mating the value of my time. Okay. So I transferred a lot there. Hopefully didn't hit too many ridges, got through to you. And I don't see any questions or comments that have come in. So we'll end it here. If there's any last minute questions or comments, you can type it while I do these final announcements. We have camp coming up here at Base 1. This is Divine Reflection in about 2 weeks, March 24th to 26th. Or if you see this in the future, go to imcbase1.com The link is in the description and everything to see info about that. Whatever the advanced trainings are, we got the beginner trainings there. We have some ebooks and products there. We have frequently asked questions, real thorough. We have biographies of about 15 of the top guys, top players, and that'll be updated continuously. And there's a lot of activity. I mean, we have Telegram groups, all of this community with guys like me doing things like this and shifting the whole world. So appreciate your attendance. Share it if you liked it. If you catch the recording, like, share, write a review, all that stuff. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Jay Guru Dev. Wait, it didn't end. Jay Guru Dev, I'll say, is a mantra that's all respect to the guru. So that's from the Maharishi lineage. It's a really nice closing. So now I will click the end record right now.